All right, y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna cook some breakfast. I'm gonna show you what I'm cooking. So I already have a breakfast bowl here, Jimmy Dean. This is what I'm going to have for breakfast. I'm gonna cook some grits, and I'm also going to cook just a few these are frozen hash browns. I'm probably gonna cook about 2 of them. And this is what I'm using for my grits here. We're using some country crock margarine. You can use butter, whatever you choose. These are the grits that I'm using. This is what I get. I get the old-fashioned grits. I don't get the 5-minute or instant grits at all. These are the best grits to get if you're gonna cook grits or eat grits. We're going to use a cup of milk, a cup of chicken broth. This is unsalted. You can get salted if you would like. We're going to salt it. This is chicken bouillon here. This is going to be our seasoning for the grits, along with some black pepper and Colby Jack cheese. I'm going to add just a little bit of that in my grits to have some cheese grits. So what you want to do is you want to put a cup of chicken broth in your pot, a cup of milk, and then you want to bring it up to a boil and then add about a half cup of grits, depending on how many people you're feeding. It's just me, so I'm doing a half cup. If you're feeding 2 to 4 people, I would say do a full cup of grits and double the recipe for milk and chicken broth. So instead of like 1 cup, do 2 cups of each, and then like a full cup of grits if you're feeding like a few people. All right, so we're gonna get this going. All right, so we got the chicken broth and the milk in my pot, my non-stick pot. And then I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. When it starts to boil, we're gonna add in a half cup of grits. All right, so the milk and the chicken broth mixture is starting to come to a simmer. I have this on a medium low to low heat because I don't want the milk to attempt to burn, even though this is a non-stick pot. I have it on a low heat. All right, so as you see, it's coming to a slight boil, so we're going to go ahead and add in our half cup of grits. And I'm only making enough for myself. I'm just feeding myself today. I'm not cooking for anybody else. So I got my whisk here. You always want to use wooden utensils or rubber spatula or whatever you have to kind of prep your food. If you're using a pot that's easy to damage, you never want to use metal on metal, okay? Unless you're using like a cast iron skillet. But if you're using like a non-stick pot or you're using stainless steel, you don't want to use metal utensils. You want rubber or you want wooden utensils. You don't want to put metal on metal, because eventually, if you keep doing that over time, that material is going to come off in your food and you will never even know, and you're going to eat it and get sick. So that's just a little tip for you guys. So I'm cooking this on a kind of low, but I'm going to turn up my heat, my fire. I'm going to stir this for about a minute or two, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my heat down because I want my grits to simmer and cook for a while. I want my grits to cook for about 25 to 30 minutes, okay? As we get close to the grits being done, we're going to add the seasoning as well as the butter, all right? If you don't want to use chicken broth and milk, you can just use plain water and just make sure you add seasoning to it, okay? So we're going to cook this, and I'll be right back in just a few. Alright guys, so as you see, the grits are getting thicker. The longer you cook them, the thicker they will get. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water. We're going to add probably about a cup of water and continue stirring the grits. Alright, so we added our cup of water. And you want to continue to stir. The grits are going to thicken back up shortly. And right now, it is a good time to go ahead and add in our salt, or basically our chicken bouillon. If you don't have chicken bouillon, you can use salt. You need to make sure your grits have salt. The salt is really going to bring out the taste in the grits, but you don't want to overdo it, okay? You need to be mindful of the sodium that you're using in your food, regardless if it's grits or anything else, okay? So I'm going to add in my salt, my chicken bouillon, which has salt in it, and then my pepper. All right, that's about a teaspoon. Then we're gonna add in the black pepper. That's about a teaspoon or so. I like a lot of black pepper in my food. And when you add seasoning to grits, that's gonna also help to thicken the grits as well. So you might need to add just a little bit of water as they start to thicken, but that's fine. Grits is something that you cannot rush cooking. If you've been following me on my channel, you already pretty much know. If you're new here and you've never been good at cooking grits, grits is something you need to cook for about half an hour if you want some great grits. Not just some average mediocre grits, but some great grits. You need to cook grits for at least about 25 to 30 minutes, not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes. That's not done. So this is going to start to thicken here shortly. You want to make sure you keep stirring this. I'm using a whisk, but you could use a wooden spoon if you want. And I have this on a low heat, kind of a medium low heat right now, and I'm gonna keep it that way. And then I'm just gonna go back and forth, which is called whipping the grits. I'm just gonna go back and forth, just like that, and then stir. Then whip the grits some more. This is when you know your grits are starting to thicken, when you start to kind of hear that slight crackling sound, that slight crack sound, kind of like a crackle pop sound. That's when you know the grits are starting to get thick. You can probably hear it. All right, we'll be back. All right, so I'm going to take the top off my grits. I've actually turned my fire all the way down on low. And as you see, the grits are very thick when you slow cook them, which is what you want to do. I forgot to mention that. You want to really cook your grits on a low heat and put the top on them. You also want to make sure that you're using a non-stick pot so that your grits don't stick. All right, so at this point, you want to add just a little bit of water, not that much. And then eventually I'm going to put butter in my grits. And then once the grits are done, we're going to add the cheese. And the cheese will automatically melt from the heat of the grits since they're hot. Alright? This smells really, really good, y'all. Look at that. Look how creamy those grits are. I've been cooking the grits for about 15 minutes, so we're gonna cook them about 10 to 15 more minutes, all right? So I got my heat on very low, and I'm gonna put the top back on the grits. All right, I let the grits cook for another 5 minutes, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit more of chicken broth to the grits, and then we're going to add our butter. So you don't need that much. I'm just going to add just a little bit to thin out the grits just a little bit, and then we're going to add our butter. Well, in my case, I'm using country crock, which is margarine, but you could use butter if you don't want to use margarine. Alright, so we're going in with about a spoon of country crock. This is going to thin out the grits, but going to make them eventually creamy again once you stir them and put the top back on. All right, we're going to stir the grits. This is going to make the grits super rich. Mind you, I still have them on a low heat. Okay, I'm not cooking on medium anymore. I'm cooking them on a low heat. Adding butter, margarine, and a little bit more chicken broth is going to add more flavor to the grits. The grits are not done yet. They still need to cook for about 10 more minutes. Okay, so I'm just stirring, then I'm going to start whipping the grits back and forth just like that. That's called whipping grits. I want to make sure all of it is incorporated. Everything is incorporated and mixed very well. So I'm stirring again, and then I'm going to whip the grits. Alright. And now I'm going to put the top back on. We're going to let them cook about 10 more minutes, and they should be done. Alright, y'all, that's how the grits are looking. I took the top off, I stirred them, and I just raised the heat just a little bit more. I want to get them a little bit hotter, and then we're going to take them off the stove. My hash browns are done. I kind of left them in there a little bit too long, so they're like a little past golden brown, but it's okay. I'm going to eat them. I like my hash browns to be crispy and then still kind of soft on the inside. I don't want half raw hash browns like a lot of restaurants cook them where they soft and they not crispy at all. Okay, I like my food to have a little bit of crisp in terms of potatoes, french fries, anything, any kind of potatoes. They need to have some type of crisp for me to enjoy them. So I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off my heat. The grits are done. So we're going to turn off the heat here. And then we're going to take them off the stove. We're going to put them here. And then when you take the grits off the stove, they're going to cool off. And when they start cooling off, they're going to thicken. So I'm going to stir them real quick so you can see how thick they are. And they're going to get even thicker than this as they cool off, okay? So I'm going to whip the grits just like that, and then stir, then whip them again, and then stir. And I just tasted the grits. They're perfect. I don't need to add anything to them. All right? So I'm going to put my whisk here in the sink, and I'm going to let the grits cool off. And then we got the hash browns over here in the air fryer. Well, I just took them out of my air fryer. And then I'm going to warm up my breakfast bowl so we can eat. All right, so we're going to go in with our Kobe Jack cheese. This is Kobe cheese and Monterey Jack cheese combined. We're going to put a little bit of that in the grits. Just like that. That's enough. I don't need any more. And then I'm going to stir this, and the cheese is going to make the grits even thicker. All right, so I got my cheese. I added just a dash of pepper, and I'm using a different spoon, y'all. I had already put my whisk in the sink, and I wasn't about to wash it out. I wasn't about to wash it just to stir this. I definitely wasn't taking it out the dirty sink to put it in these grits. Definitely not doing that. No, we don't play those games around here. We're sanitary around here. So you see how the grits are like super creamy and thick? They're gonna get even thicker than this the longer you let them sit, okay? And as you see, the grits have not stuck to the bottom of my pot. Look at that. Look at that. They're gonna get even thicker than this. So I'm gonna let them actually sit for a couple more minutes, and they're gonna be even thicker than this, all right? All right, there's my breakfast bowl. It's done. We got some scrambled eggs, some sausage in here, cheese, and a few potatoes. But I wanted additional potatoes, so I made some hash browns. And then we got the grits here. Look how thick the grits have become. I've been letting them sit for about almost 10 minutes now. Look at that. That's what you want. That's what you're looking for. So we're gonna go ahead and plate up the grits. I usually just pour it right out of the pot, but I'm using a spoon today. Look how creamy those grits are. Look at that. And this is enough for me. Like I said, if you're feeding multiple people, obviously you want to double the recipe. Eventually I'm gonna get the rest of that out. But I'm gonna put this on the plate and we'll be ready to eat. I'm gonna put this on the table, I mean. All right, it is time to eat. Look at that. Look at that. Lord have mercy. Whew. Wow. I wish you all could taste this. This is so good. These grits are like super rich and creamy. Look at that. That goes, this goes so well with the grits. I'm so tempted to rush and eat this food. It's so good. I'm gonna cut the video short. I'm gonna enjoy my meal for the day. Thank you for watching, spending time with me. If you like the content, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, subscribe so that you don't miss any content of mine when I upload to my channel. Have a great day.